So today we're going to cover 5 stadiums that were built too small. Basically, after these stadiums were built, demand would quickly or slowly shift and change to a point where there really wasn't enough seats available for everyone that would want one. And these stadiums would have to adapt to the changes in demand, and many of them would lose potential revenue because they were not built large enough. This is current stadiums that were built too small. So first off, we're going to go to Pittsburgh here with Acrisure Stadium, better known as Heinz Field. This stadium, when opened in 2001, would open to a capacity of 65,500, which on its surface seems fairly standard. However, the Steelers have had one of the longest sellout streaks in the NFL, and compared to division rivals Cleveland and Baltimore, this stadium was over 5,000 less in capacity than those two. And the reason that this is the case is they put practically no seating in the south end zone portion when the stadium was built. There were only a few rows there in the south end zone originally, which is just unheard of for an NFL stadium. And with the Steelers having such consistently good records, not having a losing season since 2003, there was a big missed opportunity here with the seating. They could have easily sold thousands upon thousands more tickets here. And so finally in 2015 they added 3,000 more seats to this section. But at this point, if they wanted to add more, they'd have to tear down the entire scoreboard and do a lot of work to really add any more to that area. However, if they did that, that would be at the sacrifice of the quality views of the river and the city that you get from most of the stadium through the south end zone. Next up, we're going to go to Ohio Stadium in Columbus, also known as the Horseshoe. Today this is known as one of the largest stadiums in the country, but when it opened in the 1920s, it only had a capacity of just over 66,000, as opposed to the over 100,000 it does today. The biggest reason being that there was really no south end zone section when this stadium was built. Now, the Buckeyes didn't draw as well back then as they do now. However, there were several games back then that would exceed the capacity of the stadium due to large amounts of standing room. Now, slowly over time, due to demand, there have been many expansions to this stadium, most notably the massive south end zone section, along with the removal of the track and other small additions in the upper deck. And with over 102,000 capacity today, it is one of the largest stadiums in the country. Next, we have Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Now, interestingly enough, when Lambeau Field was built as New City Stadium in the 1950s, it was because the Packers' previous home in Green Bay, City Stadium, was too small at 25,000. When the Packers would begin play at New City Stadium, which would eventually be named Lambeau Field, it was at an increase of 7,000 in capacity to 32,000. Now, demand was such that the Packers would play games at Milwaukee County Stadium in Milwaukee because it was initially bigger than New City Stadium or Lambeau. In fact, after only 8 years as a venue, the stadium had already been expanded by over 18,000 in capacity, going from 32,000 to over 50,000. And finally, with a few more capacity expansions and the addition of luxury boxes, the Packers would finally stop playing in Milwaukee by the 90s. And demand for tickets and season tickets has continually been so high that they have kept expanding the stadium all the way through 2013, to which now it is just over 80,700 in capacity. And this is all despite the fact that Green Bay is about 100 miles away from the closest major city in Milwaukee. Next, we have a stadium that you probably wouldn't think was built too small, and that is Michigan Stadium in Ann Arbor. When it would open in 1927 at a capacity of over 84,000, it was fairly large to begin with. However, it would be expanded fairly quickly, and after multiple expansions, it would exceed 100,000 in capacity in 1956. Demand would be such that expansions continued even into the 2010s, reaching as high as over 109,000 in capacity. And finally, we have Oracle Park in San Francisco. Now, when this would open as Pacific Bell Park in 2000, its capacity would be just under 41,000, which would be fairly standard as a ballpark capacity on its surface. However, the Giants would go on 2 fairly good runs, first at the beginning of the stadium's history, where almost every game for the first 4 seasons of the stadium's history would be sold out. But also, powered by some very good teams, the Giants would have a sellout streak from 2010 to 2017 of 530 games, making it the second longest sellout streak in MLB history. Now, about 1,000 seats were able to be added over time, but given that the stadium is in one of the most space-scarce cities in America and is also right up against McCovey Cove, not much could be done to add more seating. Today, it's not quite as much of an issue because the demand has gone down a bit, but if the Giants end up going on a big run of success again, this could be an issue in the future. And those are the 5. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.